7 p.m. por Heraldo Televisión.
Si tiene diabetes y tiene Medicare, Medicaid o un seguro privado, usted podría calificar para un monitor continuo de glucosa nuevo. Controlar su diabetes es crucial para su salud. Los nuevos sistemas MCG pueden manejar mejor su diabetes de manera fácil y automática. Y al usar un monitor continuo de glucosa, puede eliminar lo que a los pacientes diabéticos más les desagrada: la punción de los dedos. Ahora puede controlar automáticamente su diabetes y acabar con las dolorosas punciones de los dedos. US Med le facilita obtener un monitor continuo de glucosa nuevo. Nos encargamos de todo el papeleo del seguro por usted y le entregamos lo último en tecnología para el control de la diabetes directamente en su puerta. Tome el control de su diabetes hoy con la ayuda de un nuevo monitor continuo de glucosa. ¿Y sabía que Medicare ahora cubre monitores continuos de glucosa? Llame ahora al número que ve en la pantalla para obtener más información. Llame ahora.
Broadcasting live from Houston, from the space city to the world, you are watching NowMedia Television.
Hello and welcome. My name is Natalia, and on behalf of NowMedia Television, the first bilingual channel in the US, and myself, talking to everybody from Poland, I would want to welcome you to the special edition to the Legal Talk with Natalia. Today in Warsaw, we are having a beautiful day, and I'm going to talk about things that do connect with international travel and international understanding of things. I think that on sunny days like this one, everybody thinks, wow, traveling with children, that would be something amazing. What I'm going to discuss today is going to be what happens if we don't really follow the rules and make these international travels with children a nightmare for ourselves, for our partners, for the parents of these children, and for the children themselves. This is a special edition on the 1980 Hague Convention on Child Abduction, and we are going to talk on its impact on international child abduction in the abduction cases. And I specialize in this very field. I do child abductions as a lawyer and as a mediator, and I'll be your guide throughout this fascinating exploration. And I want to assure you that there is no other topic like this one that so profoundly affects families worldwide. Over the next 4 segments in today's program, we will delve into the key aspects of the Hague Convention, what it is, how the procedure works, how does mediation in these cases work, and what are the potential consequences that may arise when we are already in it. We will learn how this international treaty has been a beacon of hope for parents and children caught in distressing situations, and how it has worked to reunite families amidst complex legal challenges. Not only we will address the legal aspects, but also explore real-life stories and practical experience that will shed lights on the importance of this convention. So get ready for an informative and emotionally charged program that will shed light on a critical topic in safeguarding children's rights and resolving family conflicts on an international scale. What we're going to be starting with is actually, and on the screen I'm seeing my best friend Carolina Marin Pedreño, who is also my colleague from another international organization. We share actually 2 international organizations, and this is a topic I'm going to be discussing further. This is a topic that really embraces a lot of emotions. Let me start with a practical example. Imagine you are living in an international family. The parents have either different citizenships or they have dual citizenships of two different countries. For example, Carolina is Spanish, but she's living in England, and her children are English. Carolina Marin Pedreño, whom we are seeing on the screen. She's a brilliant lady, being the Spanish lawyer and being the solicitor in England. And she specializes in the same field, and I'm going to go back to that again very soon. So imagine, we have this international family, and the family decides to go on holiday to the homeland of, let's say, the mother. And the mother, for example, being Polish, because this is my reality, this is what I deal with, legally leaves the country she lives in, let's say the United States, and goes to Poland, let's say for Christmas. This is a typical thing. I have seen it many times. She spends the Christmas with the family. The father couldn't make it because of other deadlines, other commitments. And after Christmas, the lady says, actually, I feel quite well here. The children are fine. I have my parents who are the perfect grandmother and grandfather for the children. I am going to stay. I'm not going back to the States. The situation that I have just described is a situation that is being called retention. And the situation that is actually also under the scope of the convention is the abduction. Abduction happens when, for example, you have two parents and a child or children, and one of the parents, without the consent of the other parents, takes children abroad, but not for vacation this time. We are talking about relocating the child without the consent of the other parent. And again, a practical example of that. Let's imagine a couple living in a particular country. In this case that I was handling, it was actually Russia. And a man became a lucrative contract in Poland. And he decided to move. I mean, the couple they were discussing moving over to Poland and staying here for the duration of the contract. What happened, though, is that this plan didn't go as planned. The man followed his plan and went and started performing the contract, but the woman was left behind. The father took the child, and there was no consent, no explicit consent of the mother for the child being taken to Poland. Unfortunately, this happens more and more in today's world, when travel became easier than ever, when the differences between cultures and borders are no longer this important, when as long as we speak the same language, or as long as we are just simply ready and willing to travel, we can have an international partner and international spouse. This is where having children, we can be talking about the issue that is the opposite concept, which is relocation. Imagine you live in one country and you want to live in another country with your child. This is a relocation. You want to legally go there. And in order to relocate, you need the common decision of the parents, as long as they have both full parental rights. They are able to perform their rights under the what's vested with them by law or by a court order to administer and to care for the child. Child abduction, Hague Convention, comes into play when someone relocates this child by the instruments that I already mentioned, meaning either abduction, taking the child without the consent of the other parent, or retention, so keeping the child in a country without the consent of the other parent. And instead, therefore, of making a formal relocation upon the consent of the parents, the child is being taken there upon the unilateral will of one parent. Under the Hague Convention, which is a legal instrument, an international treaty, such an abduction is illegal. Why is it illegal? Because the convention states clearly, whenever we have parents, guardians, sometimes there are even institutions that perform the rights over the children, have the right to decide over the children, and they are not consulted, they don't agree into relocating the child abroad, such an abduction or retention will be deemed illegal and therefore will give rise to the application of the Hague Convention. As I mentioned before, the Hague Convention is dated in 1980. As of 2002, there are 103 countries in the world that are parties to the convention. And this is a huge success. Why is that? Because imagine, one parent is in one country, the other is in the other country. Logically, you think, oh, this parent who is left behind needs to go to this other country, institute legal proceedings under the foreign law and try to retrieve the child back. However, it might not succeed. The court would, in this very foreign jurisdiction, would consider some aspects that would be unfamiliar to the parent that's been left behind. Therefore, there is the Hague Convention. The Hague Convention is therefore a uniformed instrument for those 103 countries, and within those 103 countries, everybody can expect the same level of protection of children. They can expect the same level of understanding of what this instrument is and what it is. So this was designed as a speedy, efficient way to get the child back when there was no consent from the other parent to relocate. Other parent or other guardian or any other institution, because sometimes it can also be foster care or public care over children that are being invested with this ability to decide over the children and have custody over them. And again, because Hague Convention is more than 40 years old now, we can say why it is so important. The children before Hague Convention who were abducted now are actually adults and they can speak. And there was a survey performed and interviews performed with children who were victims of child abduction. They were telling and showing in their lives a lot of things that were very worrying, because abduction in the early childhood or in the child's life can have profound impact on the entire life of this child, bringing relationship issues, depression, bringing safety issues. Why is that? The child is being taken sometimes by surprise by a parent into another environment. The child is losing all the current connection the child was having, the preschool, or the schoolmates, maybe even the first love they were already having. Because usually nobody asks the children what their real will is, whether they want to relocate. I had a case where a lady who was actually a flight attendant took her daughter from Poland to Emirates in a plane, telling the daughter, oh, this is just for fun, you're going to see how your mom works. And she took the child to Emirates and stayed there because she, being the flying attendant for an international airline, she actually lives in Dubai. The problem is Emirates and Dubai, they are not bound by the Hague Convention. The left behind parent has huge difficulties in bringing the child back or even seeing the child. And now, therefore, why is it so important that we need to be talking about the Hague Convention and what it gives? It gives the child the ability to actually be returned to the other parents, and for what we will see after the commercials.
What if you could feel in control of your retirement in just a few clicks? At aceyourretirement.org, you can. Start with a free 3-minute chat with Avo, your friendly digital retirement coach. Just answer some simple questions like, how do you feel about your ability to save for retirement? Or in how many years do you want to retire? To get free action items customized just for you. Get your retirement back on track at aceyourretirement.org.
Okay, Dad. 1, 2, 3. You saved me. Dad?
Are you okay?
I'm fine, dear.
Your hero needs you now, and AARP is here to help. Find the care guides you need at aarp.org/caregiving.
You are loved. You are valued. You are resilient. You got this.
You're there for them. We're here for you. Find free care guides at aarp.org/caregiving.
There's so many rewards in life. You coming into our home was one of the greatest rewards we could have ever had.
You know, it took 20 years, and I got my third child, who was 17 at the time.
It's so cool to watch the adult that you've become, and you really have done as much for us as you think we've done for you.
Oye, Lily dice que AT&T le da a todos las mejores ofertas.
Minus the air quotes.
Las mejores ofertas.
No need to wink. Others say they give everyone a deal, but not everyone gets the best deal.
Te lo dije, aquí las mejores ofertas son para todos con una variedad de planes.
You were right.
Is she always right?
Always.
En AT&T les damos a todos nuestras mejores ofertas en cada smartphone.
República H, con Sofía García.
Una república que necesita saber cuál es el camino correcto. En República H te diremos qué pasa en cada rincón del país. ¿Qué pasa en tu estado? ¿Qué hace tu gobernador, presidente municipal o alcalde en materia de seguridad, salud, desarrollo, economía o servicios básicos para atender a su población? Tenemos desplegados más de 70 corresponsales en todo el país y más allá de las fronteras. República H, de lunes a viernes a las 8 de la noche por Heraldo Televisión.
Welcome again after the break. And now it is my turn to continue on the Hague Convention on Child Abduction. 1980 Hague Convention on Child Abduction being the international instrument that is being used by the left behind parent in case of illegal retention or illegal abduction of a child. What I also need to mention, and this is, I'll probably go back to that as well, this is also used for, and this is a very important thing, the parent that has a court order for visitation. And why it is so important, let's talk about it. So imagine there is really the situation, I was already giving some examples, when the mother, let us say, decides to stay abroad after an international journey she performed. Usually it is Christmas, I've seen it so many times. The mother with the children stays, in my case, in Poland after the Christmas break, and the left behind the parent is a father, and the father now faces the situation where the children are no longer with him, and he needs to think what he can do to really see them or get them back to the place where they were living, going to schools, having their friends, having their other family, usually the father's family. This is where the Hague Convention comes into play. Why it is so important? Because it's been designed as an international instrument to make sure that the procedure to retrieve the child from the other country is so quick. Once again, as of 2022, there is 103 countries all over the world that are parties to the Hague Convention. So if you bear in mind that there is a little bit more than 197 countries all over the world, 103 countries being bound by the Hague Convention is really a huge number. And why then, again, the countries wanted to bound themselves by this instrument? Why they wanted to apply? Or why was it so important? Because children being separated from their parents, from their families, from their environment, suffer. Even if they are staying with the other parent, who might be their beloved parent in the world, taking them away from everything they knew, everybody else they loved, like friends, like other family, like all the customs, all the toys, or things they liked doing, all the hobbies, their pets. That's actually a traumatizing experience that can very much affect the future of the child. So imagine this left behind parent and children being in another country. The left behind parent will have the right to use the Hague Convention as a means of defense and also suing this other parent for return of the children. How do we do that? Because in Hague Convention is an international treaty, each country that is being a party to the convention, each of these 103, were obliged to appoint a special organ that is being called central authority. The central authority plays a very important role in the application of the Hague Convention. Why? Because they are like a speedy agent that is there to expedite the application of the convention, finding the children, and in ensuring the cooperation between the countries. So how do we do that? Again, this left behind father can contact the Hague Convention central authority in the country that he lives, or the children used to live, to get help from there, to get more information. However, when we already know where the child is, what we will do, we will contact the central authority in the country where the child actually is now. What it then and how it then helps. It helps the way that this other central authority is, first of all, ensuring the cooperation between the two countries, but also helps with application of this Hague Convention into the courts. Because after the central authority stage, there is a stage of the court procedure. The Hague Convention institutes a special, very speedy, very efficient Hague Convention procedure. In some countries, and this is, for example, Poland, we have specialized courts and specialized judges just to administer justice in the Hague Convention cases. Why? Because the convention enhances the countries, the actual governments, to ensure that the Hague procedure takes no more than 6 weeks. Out of the countries of which I know that they do apply that, there is definitely United Kingdom. The entire procedure will take place within 6 weeks, even with the second instance. And then there is Germany, for example. In other countries, it does take a little longer. However, still, this procedure is very efficient. So what do we do and how this procedure works? The Hague Convention ensures that this procedure should be not bearing unnecessary costs. Usually the parent will be employing their own lawyer. However, they will not be paying a court fee to enter into the court and to have this procedure. This procedure is a regular court procedure. However, it's being designed so that the hearings are being made very quickly and that this procedure is as informal as it can only be. However, there are still translation of documents involved, and however, there is still evidence. So whenever there is testimony, for example, of the parent or any members of the family, this can be done with a translator, with an interpreter. And please bear in mind that the pandemics had the effect on us that it taught us how to participate in different events online. So many of the countries that are parties to the Hague Convention ensure that the parent that is being left behind can participate in the Hague Convention proceedings online via a platform that is being used in this particular court system. For example, Poland uses Jitsi Meets, and my American clients in the Hague Convention cases didn't have any issues. They were just connecting. The issue is the time difference between Poland and some of the states that can, like the Washington state, that can be even 9 hours. So our daytime is actually time where there is already night for the left behind parent. Why and how do we do that, and why it is important? I already mentioned lawyers. Please bear in mind, you are probably going to be advised by two different sets of lawyers, or at least two different lawyers. The lawyer in your own country and the lawyer in the country that your child is in. And this other country's lawyers is going to be leading the procedure. And therefore, and this is why I already said that I would go back to Carolina Marin Pedreño, an international lawyer that I am, because there are international associations that gather lawyers that speak foreign languages, and they specialize in this very issue, like International Academy for Family Lawyers, which is American-based, and gathers English-speaking lawyers all over the world to help resolve cases like that, like child abduction all over the world. Or the other one, AIJUDEFA, where I'm also a founding member, together with my friend Carolina, which is the Spanish-speaking one. So Asociación de Juristas de Derecho de Familia is also an organization that helps parents find a proper lawyer to institute the proceedings and to get the child back. Please remember, this is a procedure when you are proving a very important issue. That first of all, you as a parent exercised your parental rights. Second, that the child had habitual residence in the country the child was being taken from. And that there wasn't your consent to the removal of the child. So these are the circumstances that you, as the left behind parent, requiring the child to come back to the country where the child was taken from. This is your burden of proof. This is what you're proving. The other parent, though, is proving that. And this is a special thing about the Hague Convention. There are certain exceptions to it, which I would want to be talking about. And in the meantime, I would also want you to know that this procedure, Hague Convention, also enhances mediation in it. And this is what I would want to be talking about after the break, which I would want to invite everybody to. And after the break, we will be talking about mediation, but also what are the defenses in the Hague Convention. So what can the parents, the abducting parents, do to say, sorry, this is legal, I'm not illegal here. Let me see you after the break.
When I was in foster care, I never knew when I would have to move, so I always had my suitcase ready to go. Then one day, I was adopted. My new parents opened their hearts and home to me. My parents cook my favorite breakfast for me every morning. My parents take me on trips I never thought I would go on. They gave me a home and an even better reason to use that suitcase. My parents aren't perfect, but they're perfect for me.
Eva Marie smoked 12,000 packs of cigarettes over 15 years. She quit, and now there's a new lung cancer screening that could save her life. You stopped smoking. Now start screening. No matter how much you smoked, early detection could save you. Talk to your doctor or learn more at savedbythescan.org.
Hey, Lily says AT&T is giving everyone their best deals.
Minus the air quotes.
Best deals.
No need to wink. Others say they give everyone a deal, but not everyone gets the best deal.
Told you, the best deals are for everyone here, with a choice of plans.
You were right.
Is she always right?
Always.
At AT&T, we give everyone our best deals on every smartphone.
My biggest fear in the middle of my addiction was that I would never be able to get over it and that my kids wouldn't have a father. I started thinking, you know what? This isn't my story. For the longest time, fear held me back from ultimately being who I wanted to. I had to become a better man to be a better father. It's important to me that my kids are empowered and truly believe that if they can think it, they can do it.
I don't remember how it started. Our back and forth. Victory. Fumble. Repeat. It always came back.
Okay, here we go, throw it!
Yeah. You probably don't remember what you told me,
That was perfect.
but I heard every word.
Nice.
The best bilingual news, business talk, and technology content 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You are watching NowMedia Television, the first bilingual media network in the United States.
Welcome back after the break, and let me lead you through this fascinating journey on application of the Hague Convention and its consequences, and also on mediation that I'm going to be discussing. So the situation is like that. We already have a case in the court instituted by the left behind parent, the parent who used to live with the children, or used to at least, and this is a very important and tricky point, used to have a visitation rights with the child in a court order. This parent who is left behind instituted this procedure in the foreign country. Imagine the left behind parent is in the States, and the country where the procedure is taking place is Poland, because this is where the mother with the children are. As I said before the break, the parent that is being demanding the child to be back is proving that this parent, this father, has full parental rights. So within his scope of rights, there was the determination where the child lives. And then there is another one, which is that these rights were actually performed. And then there is the third thing, which is that there was no consent of this parent and no agreement of this child to be removed permanently from the current residence and relocated to the new country of residence. Having said that, what can the abducting parents do? Because imagine, we are now talking about illegal retention and illegal abduction. However, there are those extremely difficult situations where the parents who actually abducted children had serious rights or serious concerns to do such a thing. Example, me being in Poland, I can tell you that after the war in Ukraine broke, there was a huge number of mothers coming to Poland with their children. Obviously, not all of them had written consents of their husbands, of the fathers, to relocate children to Poland. However, these mothers did have good grounds to do so. So let's talk about defenses that the abducting parents can use. The abducting parents can use the defense that this parent, the left behind parent, was not performing the parental rights, or actually don't even have them. The abducting parents can claim that the other parent consented to the children being relocated. And this consent could either take place already when the children were being removed from the previous residence, or that these children got this consent of the parents after the abduction or retention. What else can they prove? They can also prove, and this is a very serious exception, that the situation in the child, if the child is being taken to the country, back to the country from where the child was taken, would be against the human rights standards. This is Article 20 of the Convention. However, the mostly used excuse and exception to the application of the Convention are actually two cases, two instances. One of them is that the parent who is trying to get the children back was not diligent enough and did not file the application within a year from where the child was abducted. And if so, the child could have already liked the new environment and could have actually stayed there and wanted to stay there. So this is, again, this thing. And there is another thing, and this is Article 13b of the Convention. And this has huge jurisprudence all over the world, because it says that the child will not be returned by the court order when there is such a situation that this relocation back, the order returning the child back, would place the child under the grave risk of psychological or physical harm, or in other way, put the child into intolerable situation. And of course, that gives rise to many factual circumstances that can be described. What can be a grave risk of psychological or physical harm? This is, for example, when there was family violence. However, this family violence needs to exist prior to the abduction. Many parents claim the violence only when the child abduction happened. There is no trace of family violence before the abduction. And this is wrong. That might be an invalid defense under The Hague. What else? You can also claim that there is this intolerable situation. And in here, I want to say that there is another instrument within Europe that we apply. We have European Court of Human Rights. This is a special institution that each citizen of the countries that are not within the European Union only, but within the countries that are gathered in the Council of Europe, which is a separate organization, including, for example, Turkey and Russia, every single citizen can go to the European Court of Human Rights to claim their rights as humans were infringed, violated by the state. And in one of the cases, and this is a case of X, so it's been anonymized, versus Latvia, the court stated clearly that we need to take into account not just the situation that results from the fact that the child, by being taken into this other country, is facing, again, a situation from where it is being separated from this new acquired environment to this other environment. No. So we have a valid interpretation that says that, of course, bringing the child back brings some situation that might be uncomfortable. However, we are talking about, under the Hague Convention, of the grave risk of psychological or physical harm or intolerable situation. So it can't be just a regular thing resulting from the fact that you're moving to another country. And here, please remember that this is an instrument, a convention, that regulates the civil aspects of the child abduction. In many countries, the child abduction is also a crime. This is the case of, for example, France. This is a case of Colombia. This is a case of Canada. But it is not the case in Poland. In Poland, one parent can actually abduct the child and go somewhere with the child, even if this child is even if the parents were both performing their parental rights, the abduction of the child is not a crime, is not penalized. That gives a lot of freedom to parents to perform acts of kidnapping or trying to abducting children. And there is this difference all over the world. Sometimes, therefore, people ask me, oh, so I am in Poland, like the Polish mothers with the children, and if I am bringing the child back, is it not putting me into an intolerable situation, meaning the children, because when I go back to this country, I will be put into jail? That was actually a case in another European Court of Human Rights case that was very famous all over the world, which was Neulingen and Schuruk, where it was decided that only in those extreme cases, you need to take into account some of the human rights aspects. For example, a mother that will be put into jail probably is not the most favorable solution to a child. However, the mother is being placed in jail as a consequence of her own action of illegal retention or illegal abduction of the child. Please bear in mind that all these cases are very, very complex because you are having a court procedure. I already explained the merits of it. This procedure, for example, in Poland, has two instances. You have the right to appeal against the decision, and only then the decision is final. You are enjoying this decision, but then comes the enforcement. So actually, this entire procedure from notifying the central authority, which is not your obligation at all, you can do that, but sometimes people don't. You can just directly go to the court with a local lawyer. Please remember, with a local lawyer where the child is, where the child was abducted to. And then after the court procedure, which is already there for two instances, you still go into the enforcement. Of the gravity of such a case, I can tell you, shows one of the examples that happened here in Poland. At the stage of enforcement, practically the stage of enforcement, in one of the cases, the mother that was already facing the fact of the child being taken away from her by the father to Germany, she killed herself and the children. So all of that procedure really requires a lot of delicacy, a lot of adequate attention and handling in a proper care, in a proper way to ensure the children's rights, the children's benefit is always being seen in the very first place. And what else can happen in the Hague cases and how mediation can alleviate all the gravity of the case, I will be talking to you after the break.
When I was in foster care, I never knew when I would have to move, so I always had my suitcase ready to go. Then one day, I was adopted. My new parents opened their hearts and home to me. My parents cook my favorite breakfast for me every morning. My parents take me on trips I never thought I would go on. They gave me a home and an even better reason to use that suitcase. My parents aren't perfect, but they're perfect for me.
Eva Marie smoked 12,000 packs of cigarettes over 15 years. She quit, and now there's a new lung cancer screening that could save her life. You stopped smoking. Now start screening. No matter how much you smoked, early detection could save you. Talk to your doctor or learn more at savedbythescan.org.
Hey, Lily says AT&T is giving everyone their best deals.
Minus the air quotes.
Best deals.
No need to wink. Others say they give everyone a deal, but not everyone gets the best deal.
Told you, the best deals are for everyone here, with a choice of plans.
You were right.
Is she always right?
Always.
At AT&T, we give everyone our best deals on every smartphone.
My biggest fear in the middle of my addiction was that I would never be able to get over it and that my kids wouldn't have a father. I started thinking, you know what? This isn't my story. For the longest time, fear held me back from ultimately being who I wanted to. I had to become a better man to be a better father. It's important to me that my kids are empowered and truly believe that if they can think it, they can do it.
I don't remember how it started. Our back and forth. Victory. Fumble. Repeat. It always came back.
Okay, here we go, throw it!
Yeah.
You probably don't remember what you told me,
That was perfect.
but I heard every word.
Nice.
Hello and welcome after the break in the first segment of my journey with my viewers into the Hague Convention on Child Abduction, 1980 Hague Convention on Child Abduction, and all its aspects. We've already been covering 3 segments of it, where we will have been talking about the procedure, the role of central authority, and now there comes the time, how can we solve this problem in a way that is not being so hurtful, that is actually placing the child into the center of this entire matter. I want to talk about mediation, therefore, but before I do that, I also want to tell you about an element of the court procedure in The Hague that is very important. The Hague promotes the voice of children in the Hague cases. Whenever it is possible, the judge should be talking to children what their real wish is. And whenever the child knows with the appropriate discern what this wish is and not fulfills the parents' wishes, this or other parent, then this voice of the child can also have a prevailing role in the Hague Convention cases. So the Hague Convention judges here in Poland, but also I know in England, I know in Germany, they are being trained in this very delicate art of speaking to even very little children. In Germany, the judges speak to children as young as 2 or 3 years old, especially if they're accompanied by a sibling that's, for example, 5 years old. Then the children are together. This hearing to the voice of children usually takes place separately. This is just the judge, sometimes the child psychologist too, and the children. Unfortunately, sometimes there needs to be an interpreter, but the judges know the psychology of children to the extent to know how to ask questions, how to ask about things that are important to children. I remember having a training with a lady that is Polish, but is serving a judge in Hague Convention cases in Berlin. Her name is Joanna Gutzeit, a very efficient and fantastic judge, where she is able to adjudicate the entire case within actually days. She is able to schedule a hearing in The Hague after 3 days of receiving the application. In the meantime, if there is a will to mediate, she will give 3 days to have mediation. And after that, if agreement is reached, she will follow the mediation agreement. If it is not reached, then she will progress with the case and adjudicate it and give a sentence on it. So it is quick, it is efficient. And during this procedure, this child will also be heard. So I know from my friend Joanna Gutzeit that she will, as judge in Germany, listen to children that are actually as young as this 2 or 3 years old. And she will be looking into all the aspects of how the child actually behaves. Imagine a child that goes into a hearing or into this audition with the judge, and the first thing they say is, "I want to stay with this very parent." It obviously looks like this was something that the children was being taught to be telling to the judge, and this is not something that's impressing the judge the way probably the parent would want. The child needs to express the will freely and with appropriate discernment. And then this will of the child expressed before the judge in the Hague case will be taken into account and might have a decisive role deciding whether or not the child needs to be returned to the country of habitual residence where the child lived before the abduction. However, if we already know how serious it might get, you already live in another country. Imagine you are the abducting parent. You have the job, you have the apartment, you have new friends, the child is already in the preschool. You have the support probably of your family, and you don't really care about the left behind parent and his or her family in this other country. What can we do if we genuinely see benefits of the child staying where the child is? The Hague Convention only have the procedural effect. This is we call it a jurisdictional effect, because the Hague Convention has the effect that even though the child was removed to this other country, the jurisdiction on how we want to regulate the rights of the child, the situation of the child, stays with the country of habitual residence. This is very important. I had a case with the United States, with the Washington state, where the child stayed in Poland after vacation, and the mother wanted to regulate all the situations of the child in the proceedings in Poland. She therefore instituted a divorce case, a custody case. She lost all these cases on the ground of lacking jurisdiction. The time goes by, but the jurisdiction stays with the country of habitual residence of the child, of the country where the child has been taken from. So what actually happens is we are returning the child to the country of the habitual residence, and what we do with that is that we are also therefore leaving to the courts of the country of habitual residence to decide on the child's situation. Will there be a punishment for the abduction parent? Yes, there might be. I mean, a punishment, limitation of parental rights because of not respecting the other parent's right. What can also happen? The child can actually be relocated again, this time legally, if the court finds out that this will be to the child's best interest. So what to do to avoid this entire procedure, the cost of the lawyers, the cost of travel? Please remember, if you are the left behind parent, you need to be ready to travel to this new country actually on spot. You're being notified that the action of enforcing the order to return will be taken. You need to be there in person to receive the child into your arms. So it's tiring, it's stressful, it's very difficult on children and the parents and the entire families as well. How can we avoid that? We can go into mediation. What's the benefit of mediation? We can regulate all the issues of the child, not just the issues that are stemming from the abduction, where the child will live, whether we stay the child in the country that the child is in, or we return it. No, we can regulate anew the entire family situation. Why is it so beneficial? Usually, when the Hague Convention case happens, there is a breach of marriage, of a relationship that the parents were living in, and it's either already happened, and this is why the abduction takes place, or it is happening as a result of the abduction or retention. Why is that? Because this is a serious breach of trust. We cannot probably, and in most cases this is the case, you can't trust the other parent when then they decided to just go away to another country with the child, breaking all the agreements or court orders that were already in place. In order to try and think about all these things anew, you can go into the mediation proceedings within the Hague Convention. It is a special type of mediation. Usually, it is a co-mediation. It's intercultural, and it can be also performed in different languages. Why? Because you are trying to accommodate two jurisdictions, two realities where the child used to live or lives, and you try to set up the entire life of the child anew. That requires maturity on behalf of both parents or guardians, but it is still possible. You can decide on the school where the child will be going, on the cost of the child, on the visitation. For example, okay, the child stays in Poland, but spends the entire vacation in the States. And the mother pays the tickets for the father to see the child throughout the years, throughout the school year, let's say during the midterm breaks. All of that is being left to the parents to decide voluntarily with binding effects in mediation within the child abduction proceedings. I absolutely encourage every parent listening to this to consider that, because what's the alternative? From what I have seen, I can tell you, if the child is being returned, the new procedure to take the child back to the country where the child used to live already, because it's been abducted to this country, might take years. The parent that's already abducted the child is not being seen very favorably in the eyes of the judge. It's not very trustworthy. The child is already torn apart, partly loving one country, partly loving another country. So don't hesitate, mediate also in the Hague abduction cases. That was my introduction to the Hague Convention cases and the Hague Convention speciality that I am specializing in. From me, Natalia, and on behalf of the NowMedia television, I would like to thank you so much for your attention today. And I would want to invite you for the next program. And please follow me on www.nataliawowska.com, where I'll be sharing more. And please check out my videos on YouTube, where I'm also talking about The Hague and some other things on international issues connected with children and international families, and how to help into the best interest of the child. See you next week. Bye-bye.
This has been a Now Media Networks feature presentation. All rights reserved.
Broadcasting live from Houston, from the space city to the world, you are watching Now Media Television.